In this video, we'll have a look at mountains in Europe and the distances between them that are ordered by the ratio between the meter and the yard. Let's zero in here on the mountains involved. This is quite a small sample, but I've limited it. There are many more mountains here in Europe when you compare distances between them that are ordered by this ratio, but I've limited it to this sample. So let me first, you can see here on around the Iberian Peninsula here, Spain and Portugal, and into France, there are several distances here, and I'll take these. I'll show you these a little bit later on. But I start off here to the east towards the east in Europe here, and show you distances that are ordered by the really big mountains here, and that they're ordered by the meter-yard ratio. So first we have a distance. If you go to the very easternmost Europe, we have Europe's highest mountain is Mount Elbrus here, and it has a distance to Mount Musala in Bulgaria, and that is the highest mountain in all of the Balkan region here in southern Europe. So that's one distance, and we'll compare it to the distance between Mount Olympus, which is Greece's highest and the second highest mountain in the Balkans. And Olympus has a distance to Mont Blanc, the highest mountain in Western and Central Europe here. These two distances are Elbrus to Musala is as 1 meter, while Olympus to Mont Blanc is as 1 yard. Very near exact. And I'll measure this in a short while after I've introduced all of these distances here. And if you continue and keep this distance, Olympus to Mont Blanc, we'll compare it with the distance between Mont Blanc and Mount Mulhacén. Mulhacén is the highest mountain on the Iberian Peninsula here in southern Spain. And this time Olympus to Mont Blanc is as 1 meter, compared to Mont Blanc to Mulhacén, which is as 1 yard. So here we have now 1 yard, and here 1 meter. And also we look at this shorter distance here, this one, between Mulhacén and Mount Aneto in northern Spain. This distance is as 0.5 meter compared to the previous two, which were then as 1 yard and 1 meter. And here we have then 0.5 meter. And now we have these shorter distances here that are focused in around the Iberian Peninsula. We have a distance from Aneto, Mount Aneto, which is the highest second highest on the peninsula, by the way, and the highest in the Pyrenees here. Aneto has a distance to Puigmayor on Mallorca, the island of Mallorca. That's the highest mountain on the Balearic Islands here. And this distance is as 1 yard, compared to this distance over here, from Mount Mulhacén to Mount Pico Almanzor here. Almanzor is the highest mountain in central Spain here, this area. And this distance is as 1 meter, Mulhacén to Almanzor, while Aneto to Puigmayor then is as 1 yard. And then we go to this mountain, south of Aneto, and that's Moncayo, and it is the highest mountain in northern Spain, south of the Pyrenees, you can say, in this whole area. Moncayo has a distance to this mountain in France, Puy de Sancy, which is the highest in central France here, in the Central Massif, as it's called. This distance is as 1 meter, compared to the distance from Moncayo to Serra Estrella in Portugal. And that's the highest mountain in Portugal, in mainland Portugal. So, and this distance is as 1 yard. So here we have again 1 meter and 1 yard. So let me start measuring these distances. And we start off measuring by measuring Elbrus to Musala. And this one is in meters then. So here we have the measure tool, and the peak of Mount Elbrus is right here. And we measure from there to Mount Musala. And the meter distance here is just over, if you look in the top row here in the window, the map length, just over 1,545,200 or so in meters. Just over 1,545,200. So let's take that away and shift to yards. And now measure from Mount Olympus to Mont Blanc. Mount Olympus in Greece. Here is the peak of Mount Olympus. It'll clear up shortly. The very peak of Mount Olympus we have here. And let's measure from there to Mont Blanc. And here is Mont Blanc, the highest mountain in Western Europe. And if you look here in the window, you see 1,545 in yards. A little bit over and a little bit under 1,546 there. So very near exactly we have then the ratio between 1 yard and 1 meter. This is off by about 150 meters or so from being exactly 1 yard and 1 meter between these two distances. And that's very often the case when you measure between mountain peaks. It isn't super exact, but it's very, very close. Let's keep this distance here between Mount Olympus and Mont Blanc, and let's now look at the meter variant of it. Then we see these numbers come up. 1,412,800 here, and 1,413,600. So just around 1,413 we can say in meters. So that's the distance between Mont Blanc and Mount Olympus here. Let's take this distance and shift it from the peak of Mont Blanc down to Mount Mulhacén and attach it there in a little while, and then shift to yards and see what numbers come up. And they will be very close to the same numbers. If I shift this to yards and attach the line to just around the peak of Mount Mulhacén, which is down here, then we see that the numbers that come up are again exactly around 1,412 in yards, 1,413. Exactly the same numbers that we had in meters from Mont Blanc to Mount Olympus. So if we take these numbers and divide them in half, let's say 14126 divided in half. Let me just remind myself what that was. 1,412.6 divided in half is 706.3. So 706.3, and now let's measure from Mount Mulhacén here up to Aneto, the second highest mountain then on the Iberian Peninsula. And the peak is right here from Mount Aneto. And if you can see the distances here, 706.3 is just around here, just around the very peak. 706.3 to 4. If we zoom out a little bit, you will see how close it is. 706.3 and 706.3 centering in around the peak here. So that means that this ratio is as half a meter compared to the previous two distances. Now let's look at these shorter distances here. And let's first compare Aneto to Puigmayor with Mulhacén to Almanzor here. So let's go back to Aneto and measure in yards from there. And here we have the peak then of Aneto, and let's measure to Puigmayor. The highest mountain on the Balearic Islands, on the island of Majorca. And here we have a distance of just around 395 and a little bit under. You can see it in the measurement window. 395 in yards, 00 in yards, and a little bit under that. So that's in yards. Let's now fly back to Mulhacen and measure the next distance in meters to Almanzor in central Spain. The peak of Mulhacen here, and from here in meters to Almanzor. And here is the highest mountain in central Spain, Pico Almanzor. And what we was looking for was 395 and a little bit under in meters here. And as you can see, here's the very peak of that mountain, and this is what we find. 39500, just under in meters. Exactly the same numbers we had in yards in the previous distance. So there again, the ratio there between those two, 1 yard here and 1 meter here. And let's now go down to this Moncayo mountain in north central Spain, the highest mountain. And the very peak of it is right here. Just a minute. So let's measure from here in meters to that mountain in central France that is the highest, Puy de Sancy, in the Central Massif, as I think it's called in French. And that peak is right here. Puy de Sancy is the name. And here in the window we can see we have a distance of around just under 560, 559,800 and a little bit more. 559,800, close to 900 in meters. Let's shift to yards now and measure to that mountain in Portugal, the highest. That's Serra Estrella. So 559,800 and a little bit more in meters we had. What do we have in yards here? Here's the peak of Serra Estrella, the highest mountain in mainland Portugal. You can see in the measurement window there that we have 559, 700 and 800 in yards exactly. So that means again that we have the ratio between these two distances of exactly almost 1 meter here and 1 yard here. So again, the meter-yard ratio ordering mountains in Europe. And I actually have many more examples, but I don't want to make these videos too long and cumbersome, if you will. But there are many more examples here that I could have added, and I'll hopefully get back to that in a future video. But if I don't, you may make it your job, if this really interests you, to locate high mountain peaks and to figure out the ratios when you compare distances, because they are there. You find them, that the meter-yard ratio, or for example the kilometer-mile ratio, orders mountain distances, or some other of these ratios that we have between these units. But this was the first video with the meter-yard ratio ordering mountains in Europe.